Peace to the gods and goddesses of the world. My name is Nadia. I go by Queen Goddess Hope. I wanted to come to you today with the real reason why I went on this journey of becoming free as fuck. So, let me face the sun more because, sun god Ra be doing its thing. And it started as a way to really tap into my genealogy, because for a long time I felt separated from my parents. Like I didn't feel like either parent was parenting. Like when I really sat and thought about it, I had raised myself being home all the time, being a latchkey kid, just consistently feeling that I was alone in some spaces where I really needed a parent to love on me, to shower me with words of affirmation, to give me a hug, to tell me that they loved me. And I hadn't really received that, at all. And I just really started looking at other people's relationships with their parents. And that's one thing that they tell you that you shouldn't do, is really compare your life to others, because then you start to get in the feels. Well, I definitely got into the feels, and I really needed to sit with myself and honor my own journey and what that had looked like. This man got a fucking bonnet on driving a truck. God. Anyway, so I really had to sit and think about what that looked like, because I didn't want to compare my story to another, because I'm a firm believer that when we come down to this school called Earth, you really have to think about the choices that you have made, the choices that you decided to take on when you came here. So, I'm a firm believer of, we chose our parents, we chose our family, we chose our lessons. And I feel like I've reincarnated to this planet multiple times because of failed lessons. And I believe that I've had one of my parents for many of these lifetimes. And I remember when I first got my first psychic reading back in 2018, because I had went on this journey of becoming free as fuck. And on that journey, I wrote down all of the things that I was in fear of growing up. So I had grown up as a Jehovah's Witness, and during that time, being a Jehovah's Witness, was, there was a lot of things that were taboo or considered demonic, growing up, and psychic readings was one of them. And back up. And psychic readings was one of them. So I decided to tackle everything that I figured was taboo head on, to make my own assessment, because your parents can do but so much, to protect you from some elements. And at some point you have to make the decision of if that is good for you or if that is bad for you. Some people live their lives not even dabbling into these things that people said was bad for your life growing up. So I did a psychic reading in 2018, and the whole reading was super duper accurate. And when I tell you, it was basically saying, like, in this lifetime you dealt with this issue, in that lifetime you dealt with that issue. It goes into like, you have been masculine, or you were feminine, or you had a family and you sacrificed it for business, was one of the things that was mentioned. And I really thought about that, and I was like, wow, I feel like that's me. All of these lives that you've mentioned was basically my life at that present moment in 2018. It was as if all of the lessons from the previous lifetimes were reminiscent to the current message of 2018. So at the end of the reading, she was like, have you ever had a great relationship with your mother? And I really started thinking about it, and I was like, typically when I'm getting a reading, I don't say much, I just listen, because I'm intuitive on my own, and I only give permission for people to read my energy. But if you're reading my energy, you have to be accurate, because I'm allowing you to read my energy. Does that make sense? And when sis was reading, I was like, all right, this is mad accurate. But then when she asked about the parent part, I was just like, all right, she's definitely reading. And the reading went 15 minutes over, and she was cool with it because she felt like I needed to hear the message that was being relayed. And when I tell you, it it was so powerful and pivotal because it made me feel like where I was in my journey, that I wasn't wrong, or the feelings that I was feeling weren't void, or, you know, that whole identity issue or identity crisis that I was going through. I had just turned like 31 or something like that. I don't know. Who cares, really? But I had just turned a new age, and I got it specifically done on my solar return. So I'm like, you know what? How can I really find out who I am if I'm unable to tap into the ethers, or these people who quote unquote predict the future on my behalf? And I had did a past life reading because I didn't care too much about the future. I know, you know, we can't foresee it too far. You know, we can just project these energies onto the future based upon astrological, you know, events, so on and so forth. So I've digressed tremendously. Point being, that spiraled me into an entire awakening, because I never once felt like my parents were genuine, or I never felt like, I felt like an orphan at some point. You know, there was a time when I went like a year or something not talking to my dad, and that wasn't the first time. It happened when I was younger. And then there was a time when I went a year without talking to my mom, and I lived right across the hall from her, you know, like in another room. And it was just little things like that. Like, how on earth could someone claim to have brought you on this earthly plane, but yet treat you or feel like they've completed their task as soon as they turn 18? And, you know, I start to try to reason and really understand, like, maybe their childhood traumas have something to do with it. You know, my dad being technically an orphan, you know, at some point after his mom transitioned, I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't really understand what it means to parent because he doesn't have his parents. And then my mom, you know, her growing up in her, you know, estranged relationship with her own mother. But the fact is that if you have children, and if you know that you've dealt with specific traumas, the goal is to break those habits, because you get nothing out of staying in these low vibrational spaces. Because at this point, yes, I have a great rapport with my dad, but at the same time, like, I have to consciously like reach out to him to say, like, hey, how's it going? You know, I don't feel that reciprocation back. You know, it wasn't until my sister was like, I hit him up all the time, you know what I mean, for favors and different things like that. And I'm like, I don't do that. I genuinely just talk to him when I feel like I have something to share with business. You know, I feel like those relationships are valuable, and I feel like he's instilled great principles in my life, you know, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. And if it weren't for those same principles, I wouldn't be who I am today. I'll definitely admit that, you know. But it's like the relationship portion of that I was lacking from both sides. It really makes me wonder why I trust people as little as I do. You know, like, I rarely expect people to do things for me, because the bugs is attacking me today, baby. And because I've always had to do them for myself. Like, because I knew that we grew up in poverty in the inner city of New York, I rarely asked them for things. I probably asked for more things in the past year than I have in my entire life. And I feel like that's wrong, but I also just don't expect for people to shower me with anything because I'd never asked. And I feel like that's wrong, because you drop the ball when you take advantage of your child not even asking for things. You should just be wanting to provide or give or even ask. The fact that you don't even ask is a major red flag to me, and it shows where you are as an adult, that you even have lacked healing, you know, on a grander scale. And I'm only speaking my truth because I'm at a point where I just don't care. Marble, cut the shit. It's you. I don't know who you are, but stop bothering my dog. Country shit. The fact is that my throat chakra keeps trying to get blocked, and that's bonkers to me, because sometimes people don't want you to speak your truth when in reality you need to, because they also need to hear it. You know, I've had a tumultuous relationship with my mom my entire life. My friends know that I've had this type of relationship with my mom my entire life. But at some point you have to get to the fact and the point that if you don't allow outside people and strangers to treat you how these people with labels treat you, then you should be able to sever those ties and cut those relationships with said individuals, because the labels don't mean anything if it's lacking respect. You know, I used to always say, people don't speak to me the way you speak to me, and therefore I'm foolish for allowing myself to consistently try to mend these bonds and these relationships, when in reality it's not fair. My dad has always been more of like a unbiased friend, you know, given his opinion. And once I turned like a certain age, it just was like, all right, this is my homie, you know. It was no longer like my leadership is needed, when in reality your leadership is always needed. It doesn't matter what age you are. You should be able to confide in your parents at any age. So my heart goes out to those who are lacking that bond with their parents, because in reality, especially in the Black community, there are a lot of women who don't have close relationships with their mothers. I've done therapy, I have read Psychology Today, probably every article surrounding this. I've reparented myself, I've done individual therapy sessions, I've done so many self-therapy and journals and just so many different things, and it just got me to the point of like, yo, who am I? There's no way that these people are my parents, because it's impossible. Like they can't be, because my parents don't treat me like that. And I genuinely believe that I'm of a royal bloodline. I don't believe that I went through poverty because I was supposed to. I believe like I was switched at birth, or I was given to these people, or I was in foster care, something. The math ain't mathing is my point. And I can't even believe that I'm sharing this openly, but in reality, it's genuinely how I feel. And I have been doing the immense amount of research. And even when I have asked, you know, people in the family about blood ties and relationships, they kind of give you like an open-ended, this is not my territory to answer, fuck off, you know. And that is really what solidifies the red flags for me, you know. And that's really what solidifies the, oh, in due time you'll find out, you know. So it's like, in due time, Lord, Source, Universe, God, Mother Earth, all of them, like, give me the game, you know. I'm always outside, you know, mating with Sun God Ra, and really trying to understand who I am and get the downloads to know who I am, because I genuinely believe that I am not who they say I am. Like, so if you ever hear in the forthcoming months that my name is different or some shit came out, like, that shit is true. Like, I genuinely believe I am not who they say I am. So when I find out, clearly you're gonna find out, and I'm probably just gonna have to go on a whole nother escapade, rampage, do all of the above. But I'm looking forward to new. I'm looking forward to growth. I'm looking forward to freedom, and I'm looking forward to finding out the truth, because I deserve to know the truth. And again, anyone who has lacked, you know, divine leadership from their elders or people who are supposed to instill or implode, you know, this immense amount of love and all of the above onto you, my heart goes out to you, and I pray that you find your soul family who will replace that energy, you know, because once I turn back, that's it. It's a wrap. So, you know, the more that I've delved into genealogy and started digging into my family history and started doing more research, the math ain't mathing. The math ain't mathing. So I encourage you to do the genealogy if you are up for the challenge, because you have to have a certain type of coat, meaning a certain type of skin that, you know, you have to be able to handle the secrets that are bound to come out, because baby, there are fucking secrets. Better believe that these white people know who you are, and you're the only person who doesn't know. So find out who you are, because I speak this proper Oxford English language, you know, with these proper degrees and all this bullshit, when in reality I'm like, yo, if I'm supposed to speak a different dialect, then allow me to be that. Because when I was just awakening, I was having these meditation sessions in grasslands that were like taller than me, witnessing shapeshifters and shit. Like, if I could get back to that energy again, I'm telling you, it would unlock some serious doors, because I have not been able to tap into that since I started in 2018. All right, so I'm rambling. Fact is, I lost myself along the way, and I'm on a hunt to find out who I am. So that's why I became what I call free as fuck, because in reality, I didn't know who I was, and I feel like the people who have raised me, or the people who have known me growing up, are keeping a secret, and that's also fucked up. So the fact is, I've continuously gone on this journey to find out who I am, why I am, and why I chose to be here. So if you're watching this, and if you know something about my life and who I genuinely am, hit me up. You know how to reach me. I'm Queen Goddess Hope on all platforms. Peace.